Okay, so Sun and Mars conjunction. So obviously these two are formidable planets. Sun is creativity, intelligence. Mars is obviously your logic, putting things together, working things out. It's a troubleshooter planet, and they initiate things because they're both fiery, and they are pioneers in the sense that they're not scared to do anything, risk takers, mavericks really of the world. So let's have a look at the ascendants for you. And there's confluence with them in the sense that they're both very good at getting job done. You know, that's like bossing people around, and they just are natural leaders. They can't help it, you know. So for, let's see, Aries ascendant. So we know with the yogas, good yogas, it's always good if sixth house is not involved, because sixth house is going to break those good yogas, or those yogas mean like they give fruits, particularly good yogas, you know, they can actually make you gain things, status, success, money, acknowledgement, accomplishment, that kind of thing. So for this ascendant, which is like Aries ascendant, Mars rules first and eighth house, and Sun rules fifth house. So you know that if you have these two together, you know this person, education is important to them. They're intelligent, they are creative, they're expressive. And eighth house obviously means that there's going to be some sudden changes in their situation because Mars rules the first house. And also in the terms that they could meet their partner. Fifth house is like romance and, you know, relationship forming. It could actually, they meet their partner suddenly, they can have children suddenly too without expectation, you know. But so this also means eighth house and fifth house coming together, so they could suddenly gain but they can suddenly lose too. So they're yeah, you got to be careful with things to do with insurance, taxes, and you know, generally investments. Okay, so for them, this situation, although there's suddenness about it because eighth house stuff, but obviously here on this chart, it happens on that day they were together in the eighth house. We're going to forget about K2 being there. So this means obviously there is suddenness about the things that they do, or there's some secrets about them, or some form of scandal. Remember, eighth house is, you know, and also fifth house is romance, and eighth house is sex and scandal, and you know, things sexual. So there could be some form of scandal comes out about them being in the eighth house. So anyway, but in this situation, because of the fifth and first house coming together, so it will be good in the first house because Sun will be exalted, and Mars will be in own sign. In the second house for them, what will happen is Mars is okay. Sun is not that friendly with them, but it's fifth house rather than second house, so it'd be good for money. And also Mars will be aspected in eighth house, give them longevity, but they could be prone to accidents as well. Remember, the eighth house is accidents, operations, things like that. So be careful. And I always say, you know, make sure your car is run properly, gets repaired regularly. In the third house, obviously, third house, Mars is a significator of the third house. In the third house, there is going to be at some point a major issue with one of your siblings. It's probably somebody younger than you. However, if you know, Mars is also logic. Sun is intelligence. So with time, they can work things out intelligently. But Mars will be even more impulsive in signs of Mercury, because it's not very friendly towards Mercury. So it will be a little bit uncomfortable there. However, the both of them together there, it just means that this person will be so fully into their friends, siblings. They're always busy doing things. They'd be very good at like engineering. They could be into like communication, technology, like travel. They'd be very good at fixing things, DIY, etc., things like that. Very, very expressive, and very impulsive with their communication. They just like literally, they probably will not read their messages and just send it. and then eighth house things kick in where they just could lose a friend through it, you know, upset a friend or something. But so you got to be careful with that. And then for oh, I didn't actually, yeah. So in that sense, but when it is in the second house, Mars, as I said, is going to look after the eighth house stuff, so that will be good in that sense. But I didn't move the ascendant. Okay, let's go to Gemini ascendant. So Gemini ascendant, for you guys, this is going to bring together third house, sixth, and 11th house ruler together. So obviously it's going to break the good yoga. So this is going to be much more to do with work, dealing with enemies, litigation, being of service, working in emergency situation, because eighth house of natural zodiac Scorpio, and it's now the sixth house. So it could be in the police, that kind of thing, or working for the government, working behind the scenes in a secret thing, and dealing with surgery, stuff like that. But yeah, so, and that's how they make their friends as well. So they could also be involved in a lot of like competitive sports with their friends too, because sixth house is also competitive sports. So they could do things like, for example, I don't know, say boxing, or you know, like football, things like that. Could be something that they do with their friends. This obviously for them will be good if it happens in the third house. Will be good for the sun own sign. Mars will be in good condition, but it is going to give you that problem with the with siblings. You don't really want them to be in family houses like first, second, and fourth house, because there will be some problems there. They could be like dad could be like overly like bossy, controlling their home environment, that kind of thing. If it's in the fourth house, it will be aspecting the 10th house. So in that sense will be good, because Sun and Mars is both aspect in 10th house is good. But it's better if they're in the 10th house, actually, because in the friendly sign, and that means that they are very successful at work. And so that I would say that was probably the best place for them. It'll be good in the 10th, 11th house as well, because Sun is exalted. Mars is also is in own sign. So that will be amazing. You know, it's the sixth house thing, so it's going to break the yogas, but sixth house gets better with time, so eventually things will be better. In the 11th house, sorry, 7th house, Sun is going to feel debilitated, but they're both in friendly sign. In that sense will be good. And so they're going to be a little bit keen towards business partnerships, being in relationships and things, like a little bit hasty, but they would love to communicate with their partner, and their partner could come from their groups of friends or the networks. And then if it is in the 8th house, they both do well in the 8th house. Sun is obviously not very friendly there, big friendly side, but Mars will be exalted in the 8th house. So in that sense will be really good for, and it creates a Vipratraj yoga too. So through difficulties, ups and downs of love, losses, litigations, they gain really, really good position. They could also be in law. They could also be in secret service, some form of army, navy, that kind of thing too. But they will be like a colonel or something high up too. And communications, graphic. Well, it's more engineering, I would say, in that sense, because it's in Saturn sign. Then also, if it was in the ninth house, obviously, you know, what will happen is it means that your dad is like that, or your gurus are like that kind of thing. So they could be like, the dad could be quite bossy, or always have high expectations of you. They want you to do this, to do that, you know, that. So there's that thing going on as well. And so, yeah, obviously you don't want them to be in the 12th house. Both planets are, you know, Sun particularly doesn't do so well in Taurus anyway. In the 12th house will be feeling, it can give you issues with rejuvenation or something like that. Or it could be that the siblings, you have no connection with your siblings at all. But also it could also mean that you're traveling abroad because of the service that you do. So it could be a humanitarian traveling the world, helping out. Next ascendant, Cancer ascendant. Playing games again. So for you guys, Mars is like the Yoga Karaka planet, rules a trinal house and also an angle house. So house of career, Mars rules Aries, Sun is exalted. So if it's in the 10th house, it's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing. In the second house as well, obviously it's going to be like there's going to be issues with a family kind of thing. Having said that, they're both going to be strong there. In the 5th house, it's going to be pretty good again. You know, it brings second house. It creates so many wonderful yogas. It's going to be amazing. In the 7th house, Mars is going to be exalted, yoga karaka planet. It's going to help the Sun, because Sun in the 7th house is uncomfortable. But, you know, it's sitting with an exalted Sun. 6th house will spoil the yogas, but both of them will do well there. And in the 8th house, they both do well too in the 8th house. And 9th house, they will also do well there. It will just make the dad quite a force to be reckoned with. As I said, 10th house is great. 11th house, it just means that they have really very important friends, networks, and they work possibly in the banking industry there, and high ups like a CEO, something like that. Or they could even be in travel or agriculture, but they will be like the boss, you know. Or wouldn't like either of them to be in the 12th house, really. Mars there in the 12th is unfriendly sign, and Sun also, and it's going to be like one of those signs that is like to do with family, and it's house of like bed pleasures. They could be just like very egotistical, you know. So if it is yours and you're a male, you know, you've got to be not controlling, and, you know, listen to your wife or your partner. Otherwise, you know, this is going to create issues for you yourself, and losses. So you don't want to really do that. I would probably, because it's your Karaka planet and planet of family, create a lot of expenses, you know, and also addiction issues to do. So got to be careful there. So for the next ascendant, Leo ascendant. Again, Mars is your Karaka planet, ruling 4th and also 9th house. And Sun rules the 1st house, so this is going to be pretty amazing again. In the 4th house, even though Mars is its own sign, it's going to give problems because Mars is going to feel debilitated. Prefer him to be in the 10th house, really. So that will be much more like they are dealing with food industry, fashion industry, that kind of thing, you know, agriculture, travel. Directional strength, both of them will do that, and this is yoga karaka planet, 9th house rule in the 10th house, 1st house rule in the 10th house, so multiple yogas going on there. In the 11th house, Sun will do well. Mars is, you know, makes Mars quite impatient with their friends and stuff like that, but nonetheless it's still good, creates Raja yogas for them there. And then also it's going to, as I said, it's going to be good in the 5th house. They both do well in Jupiter signs. And what happens here is creates so many wonderful yogas of intelligence, and they're just going to be literally educated and very refined too, because of being in Sagittarius. And you've got to work again at making sure your ego is not overly, you know, but there'll be such an expectation of the children, you know, but highly intelligent. And in the 6th house, obviously, it will break the yogas, but Mars will be exalted. So an exalted Mars, that could be amazing at home improvement, developing land, engineering, any form of work, and working with oil, metals, gold. Sun is gold. So education, government, civil service, military, anything could be, and they were very successful. But it breaks yogas, but they will be successful and very determined. In the 7th house, obviously what happens is Sun is not happy in the 7th house, and both of them are sitting in an enemy sign. But yeah, so they could be very controlling over a partner, and, you know, this is one of the family things. So yeah, they could be quite respected too, because, you know, they'll be quite dignified. But yeah, nonetheless, though, they'll be like a little bit difficult for the partner. So you just make sure that you go with the flow, or it's either you or the partner, you know, eighth house, which can have those traits. In the eighth house, they both do well in the eighth house, and they can overcome those issues of the eighth house, really. But obviously, it just means sudden changes in a home environment. Mother can have health issues. Also, this is the ninth house, so the whole mum and dad, both family issues, education can be sort of sudden, abruptly ends or something like that. They can work through it. It will take time, but it will work through it. In the ninth house will be amazing. Mars rules it. Sun is exalted there. First house rule in the ninth house. Multiple yogas going on for success. Mahaprusha yoga. Oh my goodness, it's going to be amazing. So in the 10th house, as I said, they both got directional strength, so they will do well there too. Okay. In the third house, Sun is going to be debilitated, and the first house ruler, so you wouldn't really want them there. But it'll be good in the sense that, you know, it's for one thing, they'll be moving house all the time with family because of that situation. They will always move in. And so, but they'll be like real interest in they could be quite competitive with their friends. They could have you know, a lot of social grace going on there with their parents, and they could also be wanting to be around people with their same kind of religion or belief system as themselves. So next ascendant, Virgo ascendant. So this brings together third and eighth house rulers, which is Mars, and 12th house ruler. So them two being together, it doesn't really break any yogas as such, but it doesn't really, it creates a Viparaj yoga. So through difficulties, expenses, addiction, sudden changes, transformation, all those scandals and everything else, they just like metamorphose and come up again. So obviously in the 12th house, Sun will be in, they both will be in good condition, but I don't think 12th house is a good sign for the Sun. So I'd probably say it's better if, I mean, if it was in the 11th house, Mars will be debilitated, and Sun will also mean that 12th house or the 11th house. So whatever they gain, they're going to sort of spend very quickly. They could have really bad issue with their siblings, elder sibling. In the 10th house would be amazing. Sun is a friendly sign. Mars, you know, Mars is going to just mean that they do a lot of changes in the job. They could be on different secondments. They constantly learning skills. That's something secret about the job going on. And so in the third house, yeah, obviously Mars will create issues with the sibling, but both of them strong there. And they both can deal with the issues with of the third house. Third house is courage, bravery, and, you know, putting effort into life. In the fourth house, Mars is going to feel debilitated, but they're both in friendly sign, and they will be aspect in 10th house, which is good. And but yeah, they could be quite bossy. So dad could be quite bossy in the house. Mom could be quite bossy, you know, determined. So, but it's a family house, so it's better if they're not there. In the fifth house, Mars is going to be exalted, so it's going to be somebody who is very very creative, and that will kick in as well when they're actually sleeping. They could do astral travel and all of that stuff. They could be in education, educated, and yeah, so that can form lots of nice yogas there for them, you know, in the sense that it will be like literally as I say that, but it's like, because what happens there is also that they're both aspecting. So if somebody is always traveling, printing, you know, that kind of thing. So if it's got anything to do with like their 10th house ruler, which is Mercury, if Mercury is aspecting them, then that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, so the work could be very what do you call it, very, very good in those terms, like but it will be very much to do with travel, hobbies. They will be really handy at doing loads of different things. They can just create anything. They can read and write and create really good quality work, you know. So, and they get a lot of respect in that sense as well. And their children could be highly intelligent, you know, those very clever children who are multi-talented. Because after all, this is 10th house natural zodiac, and it's also a house of career. People are really ambitious, and it puts both planets in that situation where they're both quite ambitious. In the sixth house, obviously that creates issues with the with yogas. However, its eighth house ruler will go into the sixth house. So after some difficult times, transformation of life will happen and they get success. And both of them can work really well in the sixth house. In the seventh house, obviously, you know, although it's a friendly sign, Sun is going to feel debilitated, too much involvement with others. But, you know, they could also have a foreign partner. They could meet their partner through their siblings. It could be a sudden meeting of the other half. In the eighth house, both do well in there because Sun is exalted. Sun is also creates big retrograde yoga, 12th house ruler in the eighth house. That's really good. Sudden changes, and they can actually, they could be like insurance broker or funeral director or something and do pretty well at it. And obviously Mars is third house ruler. So it could be some issues with the siblings and friends as well. They could like lose friends quite quickly, gain friends and lose friends quite quickly. But they could be competitive with their friends too. And that could be, you know, can have other issues with health, or they might have not been very close to their dad growing up. And then in the ninth house, obviously, two malefics in the ninth house there. Sun is not very happy in that house, and it also creates 12th house ruler goes into 12th and 8th house ruler in the ninth house of education can bring expenses. You could suddenly just leave education. They could have issues with your dad. Maybe you're not of the same belief system as your father, and disagree with your gurus and things like that. But Mars will also be protecting the third house there, so they could be very handy, multi-talented, have loads of friends, stuff like that, and be very fond of traveling. And maybe they'll go back to education a bit later and just achieve what they want. In the 10th house, they're both strong. It'd be a job that's a bit secretive. They might have to travel, export, import, behind the scenes, in kind of secret job, emergency jobs. But yeah, they both do very well. But you know, there could be some issues with work because at the end of the day, although they both got good focus in the 10th house, Mars is not happy there, but it brings 8th and 12th house issues into the 10th house. In the 11th house can be expenses, things as I explained earlier. So, and in the first house, obviously brings 12th house issues and 8th house issues into the first house. So the person's got to be very careful not to create their own accidents, do things impulsively and cause themselves an injury that needs like attention, surgery and things like that. But they'll also, with time, they will actually grow to know when to be impulsive, because at the end of the day, they're a planet of intelligence and logic. So next one, Libra ascendant. So if they're in the this is 11th house ruler, Sun, and 2nd and 7th house ruler, Mars, coming together. So this will be like, oops, sorry, I don't know if you've been hearing this okay. Anyway, so what happens is it does create nice yogas for money, actually, because it brings together 11th and 2nd house ruler. So if it was in the 2nd house, it would be really good because Mars is nice and strong there. In the 7th house will be really good as well, because again, you know, Mars is strong there, Sun is exalted, you know, 11th house ruler. So marriage, business partnerships, things like that can bring you loads of gains. You can gain from friends, gain from your networks, and family gains as well. And yeah, relationships can also bring in the money for you. And so in the first house, Sun will be debilitated, but it also creates a Raja Yoga, Dana Yoga, 11th house ruler in the first house. And again, 2nd house ruler in the first house. And Raja Yoga, because 7th house ruler will be in the first house. In the 3rd house, both do well in the 3rd house there. Obviously, Mars is going to create issues with your younger sibling at some point, but you can navigate that because Jupiter also gives you the wisdom to work through that and the knowledge. In the 4th house, Mars is going to feel debilitated, but it's actually exalted there as well. So it could be somebody who is actually, they gain from their mum. They gain a home from their mum. They gain a car from their mum. They could actually gain from having properties. They can have several properties, and that could give them extra income because those planets are aspect in the 10th house. So, and it'd be an exalted Mars aspect in the 10th house. So pretty good for that. And yes, they could be selling cars, developing property, land. In the 5th house will be like second house rule in the 5th house. So very intelligent children, very romantic people as well. 5th house is romance, you know, so they'll be very much into having romance in their life. And in the 6th house, obviously, that will spoil any good yogas. Having said that, that is going to be like somebody who is a medic, definitely a medic, somebody who is into healing or emergency services, military forces, things like that. And in the 7th house, Mahapurush Yoga, Raja Yoga, Dana Yoga, there's all sorts of things going on there. So it'd be good. Sun will be exalted. Mars will be in own sign. In the 8th house, obviously, it's a house that creates lots of ups and downs. Mars will be okay there because used to the 8th house. Sun, obviously, you know, there could be some scandals and things to do with the relationship or a divorce because of a scandal or something like that. But it also protects the 2nd house of family and money and savings as well. And 9th house is obviously Mars not comfortable there because it's unfriendly to Mercury. Sun will be in friendly sign, and it's also 11th house rule in the 9th house. So it creates lovely Raja Yoga there, creates Dana Yogas too with Mars. So there'll be some southernness of gain or southern gain, southern losses too. In the sorry, I'll say, yeah, I'll say, I don't mean southernness because it's not really 8th house, but I shall rephrase this bit now. So when they are in the 9th house, Mars will be 7th house ruler, 2nd house ruler in the 9th house. So that's actually going to, what this is going to do is going to create Dana Yoga of money, as well the Sun as well. So they'll be like very good for gains, things like that. Through education they can gain, through their religion they can gain, through their father they can travel, can create that too for them. And also 9th house is contracts, so marriage will bring them gains. In the 10th house, both got directional strength, but Mars will be debilitated here. So it's going to be like, so it's a situation where they will have, you know, some will also here now will be helping Mars really. Yeah, so, but they could meet their partner there. It could be family business. In the 11th house, they both do well in Leo. Sun rules Leo, so it's 2nd house rule in them. Very good for family gains, all that kind of thing. Very good. And 12th house, obviously not good for either of them really, because also it's house of like where we are. It's a family house. It's house of like, your bed pleasures with your partner, so can create some issues there. So particularly for men, they've got to be aware not to be too controlling and be of respect. So that's it from me. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.